Okay, so welcome back everyone to Where Are You Going Next, a podcast for travelers, brought to you by travelers. I have a very exciting guest today who I'm super excited to talk to. So without further ado, Alex, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. Where can we find you on the internet?
Okay, sweet. Thanks, Will. Firstly, thanks for having me on, mate. Keen to have a chat today about some travel topics and yeah, just to kickstart your podcast, the second ever podcast, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
for being here.
keen to get the journey started. But yeah, I'm a keen traveller, as I mentioned. I'm half Kiwi, but I was born and raised in England, on the south coast of England,
Nice.
Brighton. I'm currently a student studying up at Liverpool, but I've recently started my own travel business. Keen to just help other people travel and just make great travel memories, really, and do it in the right way. I'm a keen sportsman, a copywriter, blogger, and a language learner as well. It's something else I try to advocate through my platforms. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Nice. And what's your Instagram, Alex, for everyone, so they can go follow
So yeah,
you?
you can find me Alex Abroad on Instagram, Facebook, my website as well, alexabroad.info. You can find plenty of info about me there. Yeah.
Cool. And everyone listening should definitely go check it out. Very interesting read. So
Thank you,
yeah,
mate. Thanks, man.
that's, that's no problem. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So, when did you start traveling? Is it something you've grown up with, or you developed later on in your life? Tell us about that.
Um, yeah, so interesting story actually. So one of my very first travel experiences was I think I was 18 months old or so, and like I mentioned, I'm half Kiwi. So me and my family tried to fly down there every few years or so and see our relatives down in New Zealand.
Nice.
So yeah, my first ever travel experience. I think I was 18 months old. 30 hours round flight to New Zealand. I don't think it was much fun for my parents, put it that way, but it's but yeah, that's I was started off traveling from a pretty young age, yeah, and I don't know, one of the kind of main kind of approaches that my parents instilled in me was just to kind of travel in a kind of sustainable, kind of authentic way, if you like. I don't really like using the word authentic; it's a bit overused in the travel industry. But kind of instead of taking trips to Orlando or Disney, I would quite often go and just stay in quite sort of rural places in the south of France and things like that. Staying with local families, which is probably quite a different travel experience than most people had growing up. Obviously, I was still fortunate to do that. But yeah, fast forward to now. I think I've visited maybe 20 plus countries. I'm not sure exactly, but as long as it's more countries than my age, I'm happy. Yeah, so traveling for most of my life, pretty much.
Wow, that's very impressive. um, yeah, I love that you. I know. Yeah, I don't really like the word authentic either, but I love that that's kind of something you've experienced. That's something growing up as well. I had to kind of do that myself once I became older. So
Mhm.
yeah, a little bit jealous, but
No, that sounds good. You've definitely got a similar mindset, similar attitude to travel.
yeah, I tried
Yours, yeah.
to. Cool. So now, do you like traveling alone? Do you like traveling with friends? Are you a budget traveler? Tell us more about
Yeah, I wouldn't say I just fall into maybe one category, but um, it was actually only fairly recently, I went on my first solo travel trip I went to Lisbon last January. So the story of that is actually that for my birthday, I just decided I really wanted to get away and go for a solo trip. So I posted a quick story on my Instagram saying, you guys vote one place in Europe, and I'll book flights over there for a few days at least. And yeah, the most two popular places were, I think it was Valencia second and Lisbon came first. And I'd never been to Portugal, so booked the flight straight away. I was keen to go. I went in early January, and yeah, I just had an amazing time out there. Met quite a lot of cool new people. Traveling solo for the first time was quite an experience. But yeah, I do also really enjoy the company of having friends or family with me, because obviously when you have a great experience, or you're in a great moment, it's great being able to share that with someone else, if you know what I mean, because then obviously when you're
that. Yeah,
reminiscing over
yeah.
experiences, you were there together type thing. So I wouldn't say I fall in either category. I know there's definitely some great positives of traveling solo, because obviously, like I said, you can meet new people. but also, you know, you can get up when you want, go where you want. You don't have to answer to anyone else. It's all your decision. You've got your own freedom. And also, I'd say it's quite you kind of develop and grow quite a lot as a person when you travel solo, just because you've got to become a bit more self-confident, self-dependent, and just self-reliant rather than, you know, relying on others to do things for you. You've got to get it done yourself.
Mm.
So yeah, I definitely said there's a big learning curve to traveling solo, but yeah, traveling with people is very, very fun as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, in fact, I love that story actually. I can relate to that. For my 20th birthday, I had like I was like, oh my God, I've never been to France. I've never been to
Oh, really?
Paris. Yeah, and I literally just booked it that day. I was like, fuck, you know, that's it. I'm going. I can't allow this. Um, so yeah, definitely
Nah,
agree that solo travel, you learn so much from it, and it's definitely an experience I'd push people to do themselves. Definitely.
yeah, definitely. I can't believe you hadn't been to France, man. It's only over the channel. Where did you go?
I know. Yeah, I just went to Paris.
Ah, nice stuff.
I mean, yeah, it's just one I never managed to reach. I mean, my dad's lived in Spain for the last 4 years,
Oh, no
so
way.
I spent loads of time in Spain, but I never managed to get to France. So
That's crazy.
that's
I mean, I love Spain. Do you speak any Spanish, by the way?
oh, un poco. Yeah, it's not that great. I am trying to learn, but with university and stuff, it's been a struggle. But I'm determined to be fluent, even if it
Yeah, no.
takes me years. That's my one of my goals is definitely to become fluent in Spanish.
Me too, my man. Me too. I really, really love to live in a Spanish speaking place, whether it was in South America
Yeah,
or
yeah,
somewhere in Spain. I love Barcelona personally. It's a great city, I think. But you say your dad was in the south?
yeah. He lives actually. One reason I was really excited to interview Alex because I read your story, your origin story. Because my dad actually used to live in Malaga. He's only just moved
Ah,
recently, and I've actually seen that happened, what you described in that story. Anyone listening, go read Alex's origin story in his blog. So it just resonated
oh.
me so much because I was like, I've literally seen this happen.
Yeah, no, I couldn't stand that. We'll go into that story later when we talk about kind of approaches
Yeah,
to
yeah,
traveling and things
definitely.
like that. But yeah, that drove me crazy. That did crazy enough to start a whole brand. So
Yeah, no, definitely love that story. Just for the fact that I've seen it myself, and it's so nice to hear someone else be like, I just can't let this happen anymore.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, no, definitely. Um, yeah, no, definitely with the whole love the whole solo travel. Definitely encourage anyone to push themselves to do
Mhm.
it. Yeah, I agree with what you said. It's very rewarding once you do it. Um, so
100%, man. Yeah.
yeah, cool. So now I want to talk about kind of how do you plan trips? Is there a process to finding a destination? Oh, you mentioned to use your Instagram followers for that one, but is that something you'll do again? Like how else do you decide? And then once you have a destination, how do you kind of book it? What's your
Mhm.
process for that?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I like that one. I'm quite keen to do that again with my Instagram followers at some point. To be fair, because Lisbon was a great suggestion. I'm glad they were voting for that one. But yeah, other than that, I've got tons of places in my mind that I want to visit. Um, it wouldn't be hard for me to just choose one. In all honesty, but yeah, obviously money and time are factors. But in terms of going about booking one, obviously I mentioned I have my own travel business, so I do have my own systems which I like to use for booking because I've just found in the past the websites like Expedia or Booking.com, they're a bit limited in terms of what they show, and
Mm,
sometimes the prices aren't particularly competitive. I know a lot of people use Skyscanner and things like that for booking flights. The infamous Skyscanner. It is good
yeah.
for comparing things in one place, but I'd say that sometimes they kind of omit information, if you know what I mean, like little prices and things like that are concealed. So it will show you on paper a fantastic price, and you'll be, wow, this is so cheap. And then it won't include anything else like baggage or any of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, just a few little things. I very rarely fly. If I'm flying, I very rarely fly on a weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday flights are always more expensive. And if you just want to save money and not fly, take trains or buses. Like takes longer, but it still gets you there. And I often find that the actual process of traveling, obviously, it gets a bit long, maybe a bit arduous sometimes, but it is actually quite enjoyable, particularly if you take a train through a country. You're looking out the window the whole time. You're taking in the scenery. I think that's actually one of the best parts of traveling. If you take
Yeah,
an
my guest
overnight,
last week, Lucy, she said the same kind of thing, and I agree with her. I love getting on a train in a different country.
yeah, it also makes me realize how shocking the English train system is in comparison to other countries, which have amazing trains running on time. I think particularly German trains run like clockwork, which isn't surprising, but but yeah, definitely. And also, if you want to save a bit of money on accommodation, book an overnight bus or an overnight train, sleep on it. These are all little tips for budget travelers that you can all adopt just to make your travel a bit more affordable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're great tips actually. That's something that I've definitely done in the past. In fact, when I went to Paris, I took an overnight bus. It wasn't very glamorous, but it is definitely a budget way to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. I'm a guilty one for Skyscanner. Actually, I do like spending time with Skyscanner. But I hear what you're saying. They do, and sometimes when you click through, it also changes the price slightly when you get to the
Hmm.
website. So yeah, no, I agree. It's not a flawless system. Um, so you were saying about your own systems. Is that something that people could access through your Instagram, through talking to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I don't charge a price or anything for this sort of stuff. If people are looking to get away, I'm just keen to help them out. Really, I like helping people make travel memories, like I said. So yeah, if you're looking to book a trip, literally, if you want ideas or you want literally any help or expertise or time saved booking it, yeah, just shoot me a DM or find me on my website.
Oh wow, thank you. I hope anyone listening takes you off of that. Cool. So next, I want to talk about how's travel changed your life? Would you say? I know that's quite probably a deep question, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a hard one to round down. That I think travels it 100% changes the person you grow up to be. Because obviously there's all the cliches about seeing different world perspectives and stuff like that, but they are true. In that if you literally just stay in one place, I think quite often this is actually quite common in America and the States because A, they get such little paid holiday. And B, obviously the size of the states is huge. There'll be people who never leave their state, for example. And I just feel like people who never leave and never experience anything different, they've got a very kind of limited understanding of the world and the way things work in terms of cultural differences, the difference in the way we see things. Um, so I personally think that because I've been fortunate enough to travel around a lot, and obviously will be more in the future, I've been able to experience quite a lot of these different cultures and just kind of take away things that I can apply to my own life. I know that's a bit broad and a bit abstract, but you'll know what I mean if you've experienced different cultures and kind of different aspects of those cultures. But yeah, travels obviously, like I mentioned, the infamous Malaga story that we'll get onto in a minute. But just little things like that make me kind of reflect on myself, my own personal character, and the way I behave. And yeah, I just try to become a better person because of my travel experiences, really.
Yeah, no, I that definitely resonates with me. If I'm a strong advocate and believer that a way to kind of become more kind of accepting of different people, different cultures, is obviously to experience them yourself firsthand. Um, so I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I can also relate. That's something I think has helped me develop as a person as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, in fact, now we can go on to that that infamous Malaga story. Um, so yeah, tell us about that story for everyone,
Yeah.
and then we'll have
So
a chat about it afterwards.
yeah, so this is kind of one of the anecdotes I like to tell, that it was kind of one of the things, well, probably the main thing that inspired me to start Alex Abroad, which is my travel business, and just the whole philosophy behind it is just that, for example, Western speaking tourists are not infamous for, sorry, native English speaking tourists, but Western tourists are not infamous for being, um, the kind of most respectful when they travel. Obviously, this is just a stereotype in general. There are plenty of English, Australian, American tourists who travel respectfully. They embrace the local culture, etc. But there are quite a lot who don't, particularly because we've kind of got a bit of a, I think it's a bit of an entitlement that everyone speaks English, so
Yeah,
to speak. And it's not true. It's just kind of been ingrained in our minds that other people speak our language. We don't need to bother learning any of theirs. We'll rock up and do what we want when we get to their country. And so the example that we've been alluding to, the Malaga story. When I was in Malaga, I think it was about 2 years ago. It was around Easter time. We just went out for a nice tapas meal in a small local tapas restaurant. It was called Bodega El Pimpi, I think,
oh
which
yeah,
means
I know the one. Yeah, I know the
something to do
one.
with wine cellar and octopus, I think. But anyway, fantastic food. It's a brilliant place. You know, you picture the scene, a kind of typical laid back Spanish tapas bar. You know, there's low level chit chat, people relaxing, having a good time, enjoying the food. And there was just this one woman and her slightly abashed husband, but this woman who was particularly well refreshed. Let's say she was pissed. And she was there. She was screaming at the waiters, oh, "I want squid! Give me squid!" And they kept on responding, "Vale, vale, sí, sí, los calamares." And she was just, "No, I don't want that crap. I want squid." And it was just, as fellow Brits in that bar, it just felt completely embarrassing and
Yeah,
shameful. You know, looking over, sunburnt, pissed English tourist, disrespecting the local waiters, and that just kind of brought it home to me how much we kind of need to change our attitudes and approaches to travel, particularly as maybe Brits, but just Western tourists in general, because people will often come to England and they'll speak beautiful English, often better than we do ourselves. But when we go in return, we kind of just expect them to speak English, and we don't we don't really kind of ingratiate ourselves with the local culture. And yeah, that was a big part of why I wanted to start Alex Abroad. I just wanted to change the way we travel, make it more respectful, less entitled. Um, and yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.
yeah. Like as I say, I've seen that happen in Malaga so many times, and I'm with you. You just feel so embarrassed to
Mm.
be, a British tourist when you see stuff like that. Um, I mean, I always try when I go abroad to at least. In fact, I think I read this on your blog somewhere. At least
Mm.
try and learn like please, thank you,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, and I always also try and learn how to say, "Oh, do you speak English?" in their language as
Yeah.
well. Just to
Yeah.
see, try and make the effort.
Yeah. Don't. Sorry to interrupt you, but just literally, when I say this, I don't mean to anyone listening. I don't mean you have to go away and become fluent in
Oh yeah,
every
no, yeah,
single language before you
exactly.
visit. Literally, just, but like for example, before I visited Lisbon, for Portuguese, I speak pretty decent Spanish now because I've worked at it. But my Portuguese, I'd never really looked at it before. But before traveling to Lisbon, obviously the two languages are quite similar. But I just made the effort to learn at least a few basics and then just try and use them. It doesn't matter if your accent isn't great and your grammar isn't flawless. Just give it a go. People will respect you a whole lot more for just giving it a try. So yeah, sorry, Will. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, yeah, no, 100% agree. It's all in, yeah, definitely just make an effort. I mean, as you say, you're in their country. The thing is, those kind of people as well. When uh, Europeans come here and then they try to speak English, or
Mm,
they speak in their language, or they try to speak English and it's not as great as it, because obviously it's not their first language, so that's
yeah.
fine. That people like that one will then go, oh, what are they doing here?
Yeah,
Which is,
that's
yeah,
yeah, that's so true. Well, that's another thing I can't stand. If you can't speak a foreign language, you certainly can't mock someone else for speaking
exactly.
your own language, not quite as fluently as you'd like, or shockingly with an accent. What do you expect?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That just, yeah, that makes my blood boil a little bit, to be honest. Yeah. Um, I mean, and it's so easy now. Google Translate, like you can learn it on the way there.
Yeah, you can. I
um,
remember I was literally when I was going around Europe quite a lot last summer. Obviously, I said I speak a bit of Spanish, but we were going to me and a group of friends were going to quite a few different countries, quite a few different languages, and languages like Hungarian, quite obscure. But even just on the train on the way into Budapest, just learning like 10, 15 phrases or something like that, it's not hard at all.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. I think that's definitely the first step that people can do
Mm.
to make more of an effort. Um, and then, yeah, I think it's all to do. It's just educating yourself, and that's why, like, also taken up walking. A lot of the time, they're free in European cities, doing the free walking tour to kind of um, understand a bit more about the culture and history as well. Is that
Yeah.
something you've done before?
Yeah, so I've got a blog post on this. There's I think there's ways you can kind of embrace the local culture. You can do stuff beforehand and during your trip as well. So beforehand, like I mentioned, learning a few things of the local language, and just maybe it doesn't have to be extensive, but just looking a little bit at the current events. You know, little bit of politics, a little bit of history, sport, whatever it might be, just so you know the place better. And if you do chat to a local, you can kind of see where they're coming from, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, when you're actually there, you know, giving it a try, giving the local language a try. And like you said, with a walking tour, you know, you're learning about the place, learning about a bit of history, chatting to someone who knows the city inside out. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing a walking tour. But yeah, that's a good way. That's something I hadn't actually written about much, but yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and you know, if you see this kind of behavior, this is something I've been thinking about to myself. If you next time you go away, and you see that kind of behavior from a British person, do you think you're going to try and call them out on it? Do you think that's a good way to kind of tackle the issue?
Yeah, that's an interesting one actually. Personally, I think yeah. I mean, it depends on the situation and what the person's like. Obviously, don't go starting
Any
dispute
fights? Yeah.
drunk British tourists, but just I mean, just I think just show you're different by example. In all honesty, like when we were in that bar in that tapas bar in Malaga, I was apologizing to the waiters and to the other people in there because that's just not what a Western tourist should be, and it's too many
Mm,
people like that who have given us such a negative representation, not only in the media but just in the minds of local people, whether it be in Spain or France or anywhere across the world, really. But yeah, just lead by example. In all honesty, just be the change you want to see. If you like, that's a quote I quite like myself. So when stuff like that looks abroad, I want to inspire other people to travel in the what I see as the right way, and what hopefully you see as the right way as well. Will.
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's an excellent point. I think definitely got to just lead by example and hope that it rubs off on others around you. Yeah, no, definitely. And I just hope that people, some people listening might think, oh no, that might have been me in the past. I'm going to change my behavior now. So
Hey, well, if we can get one person to think like that, then this podcast has been a success.
exactly. um, yeah, it's just yeah. Let's just hope that people listening and people can start educating themselves and just making the effort because like if um, when people come here, we want them to feel welcome as well. Tourism. Yes, that's the only way you can really understand different people and cultures is by going to their country, then coming to yours. That's why I love like exchanges at schools. Um, that we did a German exchange at my school, and that was a really interesting experience.
Oh, awesome! Where did you go in Germany?
Yeah, we went to like Cologne, Düsseldorf.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, but and then obviously my German partner came to England, and you know, uh, just that those 2 weeks, it just teaches you so much.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words. I know the feeling. And also like you mentioned with exchanges, it just kind of the building of relationships and just making ties between people of other countries. I think people underestimate the importance of that and how much that's impacted your life. For example, Will, you said you've been over to Germany just for 2 weeks, was it? But you met a girlfriend. I don't know if you met her then or met her in future, but just literally that trip probably has changed the path of your entire life.
Yeah, well, yeah, making friends in Germany and just learning about what life is like for German people
Mhm.
who are our age, who are the
Yeah.
same age as you. It's just you can learn so much just from talking to them.
Yeah, 100%. It's also great having friends all over the world. I'd have to say that there's no knowledge like local insider knowledge if you want to go and visit a place, guys. So make some connections over the world.
Exactly. And then if they really like you, you can crash at their place for free.
Yeah, hey, that's not a bad. That's a good perk as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's so cool and important, and I think more people are realizing this, especially people our age. Kind of, that it is cool to have friends abroad, and should definitely try and network with friends abroad.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cool. So, um, you know, I just the last bit on this topic,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, just kind of talking about prejudice and stereotypes. Um, do you think that um, experiences you get from travel and being able to understand different cultures, and then that subsequently leading to less prejudice of different cultures, do you think that can be transferred to other situations? Like, if you have LGBTQ friends and you're not kind of as read up on it, do you think that helps break down different other stereotypes and prejudice that you might encounter in your life because of the way that you've seen it being broken down through your travel experiences?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. Actually, I've never really considered that, but I think just as you were saying it, I was literally just thinking about the recent the whole stuff with the Black Lives Matter movement and the
Yeah,
tragic
yeah.
George Floyd. I think it's definitely relevant to travel in that you're by learning about how other people see things, you just kind of begin to understand where they're coming from. And I think because of the way it was brutal, the whole George Floyd murder, and it was
Mm.
tragic. And I think the way it was kind of brought into the light of the media, a lot of people have taken a moment to kind of self-reflect on that and how they kind of educate themselves, if you know what I mean. And that can be done in terms of civil rights, not just in America, but in England as well. But it's similar to travel and different cultures. I think it can definitely be applied. It's in terms of just you need to kind of understand that the way you see the world is one way, and there are loads of other ways all around the world at the same time. People don't all see things through the same lens. And you mentioned something about the kind of LBGTQ as well. Uh, I've never thought about it in terms of that context, but it can definitely be applied as well because, yeah, people all have their own backstory. Everyone's got their own things that they struggle with, their own things that they're trying to deal with on a daily basis. And by traveling myself personally, I'm young, as I mentioned, I'm a young student traveler. There are people who've had, far more life experiences than me and who've just been alive longer than me who are obviously, yeah, they're more experienced in terms of that. But by traveling, I think I've been able to kind of amplify or increase my age in terms of experiences, just by getting used to other cultures and how they see things. But yeah, it's a hard question to pinpoint down to one thing. But yeah, that's a great thought.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Black Lives Matter stuff. That's something that means a lot to me as well. And yeah, just horrible. And I mean, it happens here as well.
Yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
it's just I'm so glad that people now it's getting the limelight that it deserves.
Hmm.
And hopefully we can build a much better world from
Yeah.
this. Um, and yeah, I mean, I personally think that you can learn kind of the tools of how to break down stereotypes through something like travel, because obviously you experience different cultures, but depending on where you go, you're going to encounter people who do, who aren't going to look like you, and
Hmm.
you can kind of see that we're all just people at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
So
Yeah, just because someone doesn't look like you, doesn't talk the same language, doesn't mean that you don't have things in common and shared interests,
exactly,
shared
exactly.
passions. You can't get on. Anyone can get on with anyone if they make enough effort. Um, and yeah, I think that's something you do learn through traveling.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's all about the effort that you
Hmm.
put in, and yeah, no, I'm glad that you also kind of see it that way.
Yeah, definitely will.
Yeah, cool. So a bit more of a light-hearted topic now. What's the best place you've been to so far?
See, I get this question quite a lot, and I think it's extremely hard to say, um, in terms of because the way I see it is that places are exceptional for different things. So, for example, I love Spain, as we've already talked about, for
Mm,
the food and culture. I love Spanish comida, and yeah, just the whole way of living out there is it's special. The kind of fairly slow rhythm to life, but
yeah,
chatty.
definitely.
But then if you switch that up, for example, in terms of just sort of geography and landscapes, like I mentioned, my family are from New Zealand, so I've been out there quite a lot. Some of the mountain scenery and stuff out there is spectacular. I'd say the same in Switzerland, just truly like breathtaking mountain tops and stuff like that. I did a rather special mountain hike last summer when I was in Switzerland at the Oberethorn mountain near Zermatt, and just the views up there were just spectacular. And there's other aspects as well, like Budapest for the Hungary in general, but Budapest in particular for architecture and also nightlife. If you want a good night out, go to Budapest for sure. And just city breaks, things like that. Like I love New York. Even it is absolutely packed, but it's just so lively. It just feels like the center of the world. The same thing about Sydney. When you're down on Sydney Harbour, it's a really special place for the kind of city vibrant vibe, if you know what I mean. Yeah, there's so many different aspects to travel that I'd have to kind of filter it through that, if you know what I mean. I could never name just one place. Like again, like history, like we were talking about earlier with walking tours. If you want a really historic city, visit Berlin, learn about the Cold War, about Nazi Germany, see the concentration camps, which are quite chilling on the outskirts. And I've heard the same thing about Prague for like Bohemian folklore and things. Athens, Istanbul. There's so many amazing historic cities. But yeah, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but I could never answer that with just one thing for sure.
Yeah, no, I I agree. It's best to kind of have such a diverse range, geography, cities, and yeah, the history. It's definitely good to experience all of those. Yeah, I'd definitely say that. Sounds like you've been to some really cool places as well.
I've been fairly fortunate and I've been some great places, yeah. But I've got some many places still on the list that I'm just so keen to meet. I'm keen to explore, and I'm really keen to live abroad at some point as well. I've potentially might be studying abroad next year in Australia. That could be a possibility. But like I mentioned with the Spanish, I'd also love to live somewhere Spanish speaking and truly get to a level of fluency. So yes, plenty
Yeah,
still to do.
that's definitely a goal. Yeah, something I've always dreamed of is living abroad. 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, studying in Australia. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I've got a really close friend in just on the outskirts of Sydney in Wollongong, Australia. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I hope that you manage to get out there then for your year abroad.
Yeah,
Um,
fingers crossed.
yeah, no, that would be awesome. Cool. So, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with traveling?
Someone who's just starting out with traveling, I would say keep it simple. You don't need to plan, a 6 month grand voyage expedition of the entire world. Just do some research. What sort of culture you would most like to experience, whether it be kind of slow moving, revolving around kind of family and food. Stay somewhere in Europe, go to Western Europe, sorry, yeah, Italy, Spain. But yeah, what I said about keeping it simple, just don't try and do too much too quickly. If you know what I mean? Like, well, I mentioned last summer going around a lot of places in Europe. I love that, and it was a very quick, it was a fast pace motion, if you like. But sometimes you go through places a little bit too quickly, and you wish you'd had slightly longer there. If you know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever had that experience, Will,
Yeah, no,
but
definitely.
you don't want to rush through places. You want to have enough time to really savor them. Because people often tell themselves, "Oh, I'll come back one day." You might not. That's something I try to bear in mind every single time I visit somewhere as well. I might never be here again, so sleep less and just enjoy every moment you've got when you're there. In all honesty, but yeah, keep it simple, guys. Don't try and plan something too fancy before you're used to it.
I love that advice. Actually, keep it simple. Yeah, no, definitely. Because I think, especially if you've never really embarked on much travel, it can be very
Yeah.
daunting at first. So yeah, no, I think that's some great advice. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. I get a lot of people come to me for if it is their first trip and they want a bit of advice on something, and they're telling me all these places they really want to see, they really want to experience. I think that's great, but don't try and do it all at once. Just yeah, you've hopefully got your whole life to travel around, so make sure you make the most of each place you visit.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I'm the same. There's times I've only been to somewhere for a couple of days, and I've thought, oh,
Hmm.
I definitely haven't seen enough of things here, and yeah, it always crosses my mind like, yeah, I could never make it back here. So I think it's definitely a good thing to advocate the slower travel. It's not all about, oh, how many countries have you been to? Or you've only been to 15, or I've been to 30. Like you should definitely. It's all about experiencing the culture, as we've been saying
Yeah.
throughout this conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like you mentioned, people are quite often, comparing the amount of countries they've been to. I don't actually really know exactly how many I've been to because it's not really a factor that plays in my mind. I kind of judge how good the travel was based on the memories that I made while I was there. And if that means you stay in one place for longer and actually really acclimatize to the way of life and learn something from the local culture, I see that as better travel, so to speak, than rushing through places, spending a night here and night there. Like I mentioned with being in Europe a lot last summer and going around a lot of places, we had enough time in most of the places, but a city that I've been to before, luckily Berlin, we we arrived in the early evening, pretty much just got there, dropped off our stuff at the hostel, went out and just looked around as much as we can, got a bit of food, went out till I think about 3 or 4 in the morning, just enjoying the nightlife. And then we were off on a train at 5 the next morning. Like obviously, that's a great experience and it felt quite wild at the time, but it's quite rushed. If I'd never been to Berlin before, I wouldn't really have experienced it. Luckily, I had already been in the past, but yeah, you don't need to rush through places.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's really nice to hear someone talking about that because, as you said, a lot of people, it's all about comparing. It's all about your country, your kind of country count, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, realistically, it's you can get so much more if you spend more time in less countries. So yeah, no, so glad that I'm hearing you say that. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now I want to get on to quite a meaty topic, and that's obviously the elephant in the room: coronavirus, COVID-19.
You
What are
had to bring
your
her up.
yeah? I had to bring her up. Um, so I mean, yeah, what are your thoughts and feelings towards travel in a post-COVID? Well, I mean, we're still kind of in it, aren't we? So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, so for those people listening in hopefully a year's time when your podcast is the number one travel podcast, Will,
Thank you.
we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. So travel is at probably the weirdest I've ever seen it in my lifetime. It's probably the same for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the post-COVID world, I think it's going to be small steps. Like we've seen, I think it was actually yesterday, Boris Johnson announcing the air tunnels are going to be starting from I think it was the 4th of July onwards or something. So little agreements, reciprocal agreements between countries to allow travellers back and forth, and it'll probably be between the kind of lower rates of infection within Europe, so between UK and France, Greece, Spain, Germany, those sort of countries. Also, the countries that really need the money that tourism brings, because quite a lot of economies right now are suffering quite
Big time.
yeah, from the lack of travelers, but it is slowly starting to look a bit more optimistic. Yeah. So what I'll personally be doing is just following guidelines. I'm looking right now at booking. Quite a lot of people have come to me in terms of booking more domestic trips. So people, because quite often what I've actually found with Brits is that we go to quite a lot of places in Europe because we want the sun and the food, but we actually don't know our own country all that well. I've personally been around, so I'm from Brighton, down in the south of England, but I've been up to quite a lot of northern cities and stuff. I do know my own country fairly well, but a lot of Brits, if they're Southerners, they've never been up north, and if they're Northerners, they've never been down south. So I think that's maybe a positive in a way that has actually come from the coronavirus, is we're learning to appreciate not only our local areas but our own country. And there's some great spots around the UK if you want to go into the Lake District or the Peak District. There's amazing scenery to be found. But yeah, and sorry, I went off a bit of a tangent there again. But in terms of post-COVID, I do think that there's one thing that people should bear in mind is if they've had a trip cancelled or they haven't been able to travel because of COVID, and that's their biggest inconvenience, then really you're in quite a fortunate position. You're quite lucky because there are people suffering from way worse circumstances right now. They're not being able to travel. Obviously, as a keen traveler, I know how you feel if you had to cancel trips and you're still waiting on refunds. Some airlines have not been great at returning refunds, unfortunately. But yeah, just bear it in mind if you're not being able to travel, there are people suffering way worse inconveniences right now. In terms of economics, I just think the hostels are going to struggle because even after things reopen, how do you social distance in a hostel? I think they're going to struggle to get open properly. Quite a few will probably go bankrupt. Airbnbs and hotels will probably be fine. I would probably estimate just because it's easier to social distance in them. But yeah, it's hard to give concrete advice right now, Will, because literally prices of hotels and flights are just fluctuating every day. Some of them are a bit crazy. I've been looking at flights for my mum who's going to be going to New Zealand in the next week. You might think that's a bit strange. It's for personal family reasons, for health reasons over in New Zealand. Her father's quite ill, but it is
Oh,
quite
sorry
obviously
to hear that.
it's okay, but it is obviously quite a strange time. Um, and yeah, just there are some great deals to be had as well if you are looking to book a trip to go away, but be aware that prices are changing every single day, and yeah, just do what you can, explore your local area if possible. If people are going a bit stir crazy, stuck at home, but yeah, there are positives to even be taken from this very serious negative situation. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Kind of perspective. There is, as much as it sucks not traveling, there's definitely a lot worse
Mm.
stuff going on. Yeah, and interesting. You were saying about hostels. I mean, how are you personally? I mean, I love hostels. I think they're
Yeah,
great, but I'm personally feeling like I'm probably going to avoid them for a while. Just stick to a hotel. Is that something you're kind of
yeah,
feeling as well?
yeah. I was thinking the same, just because I mean, yeah, I love hostels as well. The most recent hostel I stayed in Lisbon, in fact, it was fantastic just for meeting new people and just the
Yeah,
whole atmosphere, around 95% of hostels. I think is great. It's people quite like-minded looking. It's not just young people. Like, people think that hostels is just for 18 to 25-year-olds. There it is more of a mix than that. But yeah, no, I love them myself. But I think I'm agreeing with you that I might have to give them a miss for the time being at least.
yeah. In fact, slight tangent here. I love what you just said about it's not just for young people. 100% agree. There's some, I've met some older people in hostels, and they've been just as interesting and had some just as great conversations and interactions with them. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just a young person's game. Don't be put off just because you think it's all going to be annoying 20-year-olds like us.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hope anyone listening to this, who's quite a bit older than 20, has been re-energized by this.
That'd
um,
be great.
yeah, but yeah, no, I think hostel's definitely going to struggle. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, how are you feeling about flying? With the, obviously it's definitely important to wear a mask in a closed
Yeah.
space. So, how are you feeling about that? Having to wear a mask the whole time and being so
Yeah.
squished in.
No, it's probably won't be the most pleasant flying experience ever. I mean, I'm probably going to be going out. I'm going to probably be doing some hiking in the Alps in August at some point. So I will be taking a flight out to Geneva, and that's only a couple hours. I'm not particularly looking forward to wearing a mask even for that time. But for people who have to fly longer distance, like my mum, will be doing 30, 40 hours to New Zealand. That's a long time wearing a mask. It's it won't be
Yeah,
particularly comfortable, but hopefully airlines give good guidelines and social distance people on the flight, on the plane. I've heard some airlines have been sticking strictly to just one person in each aisle, but others have been cramming everyone in, multiple people on the aisle. So yeah, I mean, look into that before you travel and before you book an airline. Like, people who've been looking to book flights have been asking me, oh, I heard that so and so crammed this flight in. Do I really want to book with them because it's not social distancing or whatever? Yeah, do your research before. Ask people who are experts in the industry and who've been on flights recently as well, before you go ahead and book things. But I'm not particularly apprehensive about flying necessarily. I think if you stick to the guidelines, then it can be perfectly safe. But I can understand why some people would be preferring to just stick to domestic trips right now and just drive, or just take a train and drive, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, in fact, do you think this is a really critical time for airlines? I mean, do you think people and yourself are going to look at how different airlines are handling this right now, and then look at this again in a year's time, and be like, oh, you know what, this airline was so bad at handling. You know, I flew with them and they squished me with loads of people, and it was horrible. I'm never going to book with them again. Is that something you can see
That's actually
affecting
a really
them?
great point. That's a great point, Will, because I was just thinking that how particularly businesses and companies respond in times of crisis, and just how people in general respond in times of crisis, kind of, it's when people show their true colors, isn't it? So if an airline or a business, if they crammed you in, didn't give you good service now because they're trying to cut costs, then does that reflect who they are really? Are you gonna bear that in mind when you book later in time? Probably, yeah. People are loyal to companies, and obviously airlines come under that have treated them well, and no one wants to be treated better than they do now in the current climate. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. If I think if people have a bad experience now, it could put them off an airline for life. So if the CEO of British Airways is listening in, bear it in mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously having all that distancing obviously affects how much money they make in the short term. But I guess,
Mhm.
I mean, given what you just said, that they're probably gonna have to start thinking, yes, we might lose money in the short term, but in the long term, we'll be better off because people will be like, oh, BA or whoever, they treated us so well, we're definitely going to book all of our travel with them in the future. So yeah, no, it's
Yeah, definitely. I
definitely
think I think the
interesting.
companies with the long term mindset will win out anyway, because it's not just about making a quick buck today. It's about actually treating your customers right, and yeah, they'll win in the long term if they actually treat their airline customers right now. So yeah, it's an interesting point, Will.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting to see what unfolds in the coming months. Certainly. Cool. Okay then, Alex. Just one last question. Um, where are you going next? You just mentioned the Alps. Is that the
The
Alps?
fun
Is
one. So
yeah.
yeah, I've had a couple of trips cancelled due to COVID. I was like I mentioned, gonna be revisiting Berlin in Easter, which would have been great, but hey ho, that's been cancelled. I was also maybe going to be flying over to Canada. In fact, it's the 1st of July today, isn't it? I was going to be flying today to Canada.
Oh,
We're flying into Toronto, checking out some of the eastern cities, going down to the Niagara Falls, of course, can't miss that. But then also heading inland towards some of the kind of national parks and stuff like that. Fantastic scenery out there. Well, it's meant to be. I've never been to Canada. I was keen to go, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, making the most of it now. I've just been at home for the past few months, but looking at maybe booking some domestic trips up to the lakes here in England, maybe over to Wales. But yeah, then after that, I did mention some more hiking. Me and a couple of mates have got a trip planned to do. I think it's 8 to 10 days in it's the French Alps, but well, you fly into Geneva and then we'll go hiking around the French Alps, down to the Italian Alps and Swiss Alps as well, which would be pretty awesome, I think. But yeah, still hoping maybe on a trip to Prague and Krakow in August if the flights come through. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, if not, well, yeah, I haven't planned it all in yet, but hopefully we'll be getting away sometime soon.
yeah, no, well, yeah, I definitely hope you make it in all of those. I've been to Krakow a couple of times actually. Very
Oh
nice
yeah,
city. Yeah, definitely
I've heard
recommend
the
going.
same. Yeah, I've heard it's an awesome city, man. Hopefully I can get out there, even if it's not this August. I'll get out to Poland sometime.
Yeah, I suppose that's all we can really do at the moment. It's just just hope and take it as as it comes. Definitely, probably going to expect a lot more cancellations and yeah, delays. But I guess that's just going to be part of the whole travel experience for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. We can still get out there and still make some great memories. So I'm just trying to see the positive in the situation, really. And I'm sure if people do that, then yeah, it won't be as bad as maybe some type people are perceiving it to be. So yeah, I'm sure there's still some great memories that we made over the summer.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you definitely got to see the positive, and yeah, just be thankful that hopefully we're going to be able to go at least into Europe soon. So I think things are getting more positive, definitely. Definitely. Well, no, thanks so much for speaking to us today, Alex. Had a really nice time chatting to you. If you could just say your Instagram one more, and where people can find you one more time.
Yeah, no worries, my man. So yeah, give me a search, Alex Abroad. I should come up on the internet or yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Feel free to reach out. You need any advice, tips, traveling, whatever it might be. I'm here for you. If anyone's listening, yeah, hopefully they can reach out and read my blogs. Hopefully they'll like my content. But yeah, thanks a lot, Will. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all. And yeah, everyone listening, definitely go check out Alex. He's got a super cool blog, super interesting post that he's written. So yeah, definitely go check him out. Thanks everyone for listening, and catch you in the next one.